A grocery store just received a shipment of 200 cartons of eggs. Each carton holds 1 dozen eggs. If 12 eggs equals 1 dozen, how many eggs did the store receive? Well, if we take a look, okay, this is a given, but then right here is a ratio that we can use. Each carton holds 1 dozen eggs. So that's one ratio, and then here's another ratio. So here we go. 1 carton holds 1 dozen eggs. We can write this two ways. 1 carton over 1 dozen, or 1 dozen over 1 carton. All right. And then we can also write 12 eggs equals 1 dozen. So that's 12 eggs over 1 dozen, or 1 dozen over 12 eggs. So those are our ratios that we can use. And then finally, how many eggs? So eggs is the unit that we want. All right, so in this top left-hand side of our dimensional analysis grid, we start with what we know, 200 cartons. And now we need a ratio to put in this, what I call field goals. And now look at this one deals with cartons, but the question is, do we want the first ratio or the second ratio? I hope you've identified we want the second ratio, because look at 1 carton is on the bottom, and that means that there's 1 dozen. This means that cartons cancels with cartons, leaving you with dozens, which doesn't help us yet. We want it in eggs. Now we can move to this second set of ratios and either choose the first one or the second one. And I hope that you can recognize that the first one is the one that we want, because dozen will cancel out. So 1 dozen, 12 eggs. Now when we cancel these units, we are left with eggs, which is what we want when we're all said and done. If I get out my Inspire, I can solve the top of my dimensional analysis. 200 times 1 times 12. And so I get 2,400 along the top. But then, in order to solve the bottom, I need to take this number and divide by the first digit that is in my dimensional analysis, 1. And then I hit enter, and then I divide by the second digit in my dimensional analysis denominator, which is also 1. So on and so on and so on until I have all of the digits in the denominator completed. And we see that my answer is 2,400 eggs. Now, this is my calculator answer. And it's always a good idea to respond with your calculator answer, but then we need to take a look at significant figures. Now, this number 200 only has one significant figure because there's no decimal point there. This 12 eggs and 1 dozen does not contribute to significance because that is a known quantity. So in my answer, if I were to respond according to significant figures, I would say that there's 2,000 eggs.